The crystal champagne flute hit the marble floor with a sound that cut through Vivienne Ashford's carefully constructed composure like a blade. She didn't flinch. Not when 200 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Not when her husband, former husband, she reminded herself, viciously, stepped deliberately away from her extended hand, as if she were contaminated. Not even when Celeste Montgomery, dripping in emeralds and malice, leaned into Marcus's side with practiced intimacy. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the vaulted ceiling of the Grandmont Hotel ballroom, pitched just loud enough for their immediate circle to hear. Every word was a calculated strike. "I don't associate with thieves, even ones I used to be married to." The room inhaled collectively. Vivienne's fingers trembled, the only outward sign of the earthquake tearing through her chest. She'd known Marcus would be here. The annual Ashford Industries Christmas Gala had been her project, her baby, for 5 years. She'd stepped down from the planning committee after the divorce 6 months ago, but she'd still received an invitation. A mistake, clearly. What she hadn't known was that he'd bring her, Celeste Montgomery, CFO of Ashford Industries, the woman who'd been Marcus's trusted advisor long before their marriage imploded. "Marcus." Vivienne's voice emerged steady, a minor miracle. "We need to talk privately." "No." He adjusted his cufflinks, the platinum ones she'd given him for their 3rd anniversary. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Unless you'd prefer your lawyer to speak for you." "Oh, wait." His smile was arctic. "You can't afford one anymore, can you?" Whispers erupted like wildfire. Vivienne felt the walls closing in, the glittering crowd pressing closer, eager for blood. She recognized the vultures, board members, shareholders, society matrons who'd smiled to her face for years. Now they watched her drown with barely concealed glee. "The photographs were fabricated," she said, hating the plea that crept into her tone. "I never stole company funds. I never. Save it for the authorities." Marcus turned his back on her, effectively ending the conversation. Ending her. Vivienne stood frozen in the center of the ballroom, drowning in designer gowns and diamond judgment. The evidence had been damning. Bank transfers bearing her digital signature, moving $3 million from Ashford Industries into offshore accounts. Security footage of her accessing the financial servers at midnight. A paper trail that led directly to her name. All of it false. All of it perfectly, impossibly constructed. And no one believed her. She'd spent 6 months trying to prove her innocence, watching her reputation disintegrate, her friends vanish, her professional life collapse. The legal fees had consumed her savings. The divorce settlement, contested, vicious, had left her with almost nothing. Marcus had made sure of that. Vivienne walked out of the ballroom with her head high and her heart in pieces, leaving behind the life she'd built, the man she'd loved, and any remaining shred of dignity. She didn't go home to her studio apartment in Queens, the laughable downgrade from their penthouse in Tribeton. Instead, she drove to the Hamptons' house, their house, though the deed now bore only Marcus's name, using the gate code he hadn't bothered to change. Maybe because he never imagined she'd have the audacity to return. Maybe because some part of him still recognized her right to be there. The house was dark, wrapped in Christmas lights that turned the snow-covered grounds into something from a fairy tale. She'd designed those displays, had spent weeks choosing the perfect warm white LEDs, positioning each strand to highlight the mansion's architectural bones. Her hands shook as she unlocked the door, with the key she should have returned. The master bedroom smelled like his cologne. Sandalwood and bergamot. The scent that used to mean safety, now it just made her nauseous. She needed her documents. The backup files she'd hidden in the false bottom of her jewelry box before everything went to hell. Evidence that might finally prove someone had framed her. Vivienne pulled the box from the closet, fingers fumbling with the hidden catch. A USB drive was there, untouched. Relief made her dizzy. Then the room tilted. Not metaphorically. The actual floor seemed to shift beneath her feet, and a strange numbness spread through her limbs. The jewelry box clattered from her hands. She tried to catch herself on the dresser, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Poison. The realization came with crystalline clarity even as darkness crowded her vision. Someone had poisoned her. The champagne at the gala. She'd only taken one sip before dropping the glass, but it had been enough. Vivienne collapsed onto the carpet. Her last thought, a bitter laugh at the irony. She'd come here looking for evidence to save her life, and instead, she'd die in the house where she'd once been happy. The bedroom door creaked open. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. Through failing vision, she saw expensive Italian leather shoes stop inches from her face. Vivienne. A voice. Not Marcus. Someone else. You really should have stayed away. Then nothing. Some stories aren't just meant to be heard. They're meant to be felt. If you enjoy angsty billionaire romances where regret runs deep, love is tested, and grovel is earned, make sure you're subscribed. And if this story touches something familiar in you, tell me in the comments as you listen. Now, let's go back our story. Marcus Ashford received the call at 2:47 a.m. Mr. Ashford? The voice was clipped, professional. This is Detective Sarah Chen with the Southampton Police Department. We found your wife at your Hamptons residence. She's being transported to Southampton Hospital. The world stopped. Former wife, Marcus corrected automatically, then hated himself for it. What happened? Is she? She's alive, unconscious. Possible overdose, but we won't know until toxicology comes back. A pause. Mr. Ashford, we found her in your bedroom with a USB drive in her hand. We'll need to ask you some questions. Marcus was in his car before the detective finished speaking. Celeste's protests fading behind him as he tore out of the city toward Southampton. The hour-long drive passed in a blur of snow and self-recrimination. Overdose. The word ricocheted through his skull. He'd driven Vivienne to this. He'd believed the evidence, believed the worst of the woman he'd promised to love unconditionally. He'd humiliated her publicly, systematically destroyed her life, all while his gut screamed that something was wrong. Because Vivienne didn't steal. She didn't lie. In 8 years together, 3 dating, 5 married, she'd been pathologically honest to the point of bluntness. It was one of the things he'd loved about her. Loved. Present tense. God help him. The hospital was a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic. A nurse directed him to the ICU, where Detective Chen waited outside Vivienne's room. Mr. Ashford. She was younger than her voice suggested, sharp-eyed and measuring. Interesting that you arrived before we could formally notify you. Is Vivienne going to be okay? The doctors pumped her stomach. Whatever she ingested, she didn't get a full dose. She's stable. Detective Chen pulled out a notepad. Mr. Ashford, what was your wife doing in your house tonight? I don't know. I was at the Christmas gala in Manhattan. Witnesses say you had a public confrontation with her there. Marcus's jaw tightened. We're divorced. There's been tension. Tension. Chen's expression remained neutral. Your wife is under investigation for embezzling $3 million from your company. That's more than tension. She's innocent. The words tumbled out before Marcus could stop them. Chen's eyebrow rose. That's not what your own testimony indicated 6 months ago. You personally provided evidence against her. I was wrong. Saying it out loud felt like shedding a weight he'd been carrying since the divorce. Someone set her up. And you realized this, when? Before or after she ended up poisoned in your bedroom? The word hit him like a physical blow. Poisoned? Preliminary results show arsenic, not enough to kill her quickly, but enough to incapacitate. Mr. Ashford, I'm going to need you to come to the station and answer some questions. And I'll need access to that USB drive. Marcus barely heard her. He was staring through the window into Vivienne's room, where she lay paper pale against white sheets, an oxygen cannula under her nose and an IV in her arm. She looked impossibly fragile, breakable. He'd done this to her. Not the poison, but everything else. The public humiliation, the financial ruin, the loneliness that must have driven her to their house in the middle of the night. I need to see her. After you answer my questions. Now. Something in his voice made Chen step aside. Marcus entered the room on unsteady legs. Up close, Vivienne looked even worse. Dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones too prominent, a purple bruise blooming on her temple where she must have hit the floor. He reached for her hand, then stopped himself. He'd lost the right to touch her. I'm sorry, he whispered. God, Viv, I'm so sorry. Her voice was a rasp. Her eyes flickered open. Don't you dare pretend you care. For a moment, she stared at him without recognition. Vivienne, then awareness flooded in. She tried to followed immediately triggering by something that looked like fear. Get out. You did this. You destroyed me, and now you. A coughing fit cut her off. A nurse rushed in, shooting Marcus a glare. Mr. Ashford, you need to leave. Now. He backed out of the room, Vivienne's accusations echoing in his ears. In the hallway, Detective Chen waited with barely concealed satisfaction. Sounds like a happy reunion, she said dryly. Let's go downtown, Mr. Ashford. We have a lot to discuss. Act 3. Unraveling. The USB drive contained everything. Marcus sat in the Southampton police station at 4 a.m., watching his entire world realign as Detective Chen pulled up file after file. Emails he'd never seen, financial records with timestamps that proved Vivienne couldn't have made the transfers. She'd been in surgery for appendicitis during 3 of them, a fact easily verified by hospital records no one had bothered to check. Security footage from different angles than what had been presented in court, showing the person accessing the servers was 3 inches taller than Vivienne. And photographs, dozens of them, showing Celeste Montgomery meeting with a man Marcus recognized as the forensic accountant who testified against Vivienne. Jesus Christ, Marcus breathed. Celeste framed her. Chen leaned back in her chair. Motive? She wanted my wife's position. Vivienne was VP of Strategic Development, on track for COO. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. And she wanted me. Wanted? Past tense? Marcus met her eyes. We've been involved since the divorce. Convenient timing. Chen's voice was acid. Your wife gets framed, divorced, financially ruined, and you end up with the woman who engineered it all. Did you know, Mr. Ashford? No, the word came out fierce. I thought I'd believe the evidence. I trusted Celeste. She was my CFO, my advisor. She helped me build Ashford Industries from the ground up. And your wife, what was she to you? Everything, Marcus' voice cracked. She was everything, and I destroyed her because I was too blind to see the truth. Chen studied him for a long moment. The arsenic in your wife's system, the delivery method, was likely something she ingested hours before she collapsed, possibly at the gala. Marcus's blood ran cold. The champagne. She dropped a glass right after He couldn't finish. Right after he'd humiliated her in front of 200 people. We'll need a list of everyone with access to the catering. And Mr. Ashford, Chen's expression softened infinitesimally. Your wife specifically hid this drive in your house. She could have gone anywhere, but she came to you. That means something. It meant Vivienne had still trusted him with her evidence, even after everything. The realization made Marcus want to put his fist through the wall. I need to see her again. She was pretty clear about not wanting that. I don't care. Someone tried to kill her, and that person is still out there. Marcus stood. I'm going back to that hospital, and you can arrest me or not, your choice. Chen sighed. I'll have officers posted outside her room. But Mr. Ashford, your wife is the victim here. She gets to decide if she wants to see you. And if she says no, she let the sentence hang. Marcus drove back to Southampton Hospital as dawn broke over the snow-covered landscape. Christmas morning, the irony wasn't lost on him. Last Christmas, he and Vivienne had been happy. Or so he'd thought. Had the poison already been in their marriage then? Had Celeste been planning this for months? Years? At the hospital, he found Vivienne awake, staring out the window at the snow. She looked up when he entered, and her expression shuddered immediately. The detective said I couldn't keep you out. Her voice was stronger now, but cold. Make it quick. The USB drive proves I was innocent. I know. I created it. Vivienne's laugh was bitter. 6 months too late. I'm sorry. The words felt pathetically inadequate. Viv, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have trusted you. I should have destroyed my life, publicly humiliated me, watched me lose everything while you fucked my replacement. Her eyes were dry, which somehow made it worse. Yes, Marcus, you should have done all of those things. Mission accomplished. He deserved that. Deserved worse. Celeste is behind the embezzlement. She framed you. Obviously. Vivienne turned back to the window. She's also the one who poisoned me. The police will arrest her. You'll get your life back. What life? She finally looked at him, and the emptiness in her eyes gutted him. My reputation is destroyed. My career is over. I have $300 in my bank account and a studio apartment with a broken radiator. You took everything, Marcus. And an arrest isn't going to give it back. Then I'll fix it. Marcus moved closer, desperate. I'll hold a press conference, clear your name publicly. I'll restore your position at Ashford, give you the COO title you deserved. I'll... Buy me off? Vivienne's voice was ice. Write a check and absolve your conscience? Is that what you think this is? No. I think this is me trying to make amends for the worst mistake of my life. You can't. She met his eyes, and he saw the truth there. You can't fix this, Marcus. You broke something that can't be repaired. Vivienne, I loved you. The words were quiet, devastating. I loved you more than anything. And when everything fell apart, when the whole world turned against me, I still believed you'd come around, that you'd see the truth, that you'd choose me. She swallowed hard. But you didn't. You chose to believe the worst. You chose her. I was wrong. You were cruel. A single tear slid down her cheek. You humiliated me. You celebrated my destruction. Last night at the gala, you looked at me like I was nothing. Like our entire marriage was nothing. Marcus felt his own eyes burning. It wasn't. You were never nothing to me. Then why did you treat me like I was? He had no answer, none that would matter. The night you asked me for a divorce, Vivienne continued, her voice distant. I was going to tell you something. Something important. Marcus's heart stopped. What? It doesn't matter now. She turned away. Please leave. Vivienne, leave. The word was a whip crack. You don't get to fix this. You don't get redemption. You just don't get me. Not anymore. Celeste Montgomery was arrested on Christmas morning. The news broke like a bomb across Manhattan's social elite. The evidence was overwhelming. The USB drive, combined with the police investigation into Vivienne's poisoning, revealed a conspiracy that had lasted nearly 2 years. Celeste had systematically built a case against Vivienne, enlisting a corrupt forensic accountant and a disgruntled IT specialist who doctored security footage, all to remove Vivienne from Ashford Industries and clear her path to Marcus. Marcus held the press conference 2 days later. The media turnout was massive. He stood at the podium in Ashford Industries' main conference room, aware that this moment would define the rest of his life. Behind him, his board of directors sat in stony silence. Half of them had advised against this public mea culpa. The other half had already tendered their resignations. 6 months ago, Marcus began, his voice steady despite the nausea churning in his gut. I made a statement accusing my wife, Vivienne Ashford, of embezzling $3 million from this company. I presented evidence at our divorce proceedings that painted her as a thief and a liar. I was wrong. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. Vivienne Ashford is innocent. She was the victim of an elaborate frame job orchestrated by someone I trusted implicitly. Someone I allowed into the most intimate parts of my life, while my wife, my innocent wife, lost everything. He paused, forcing himself to continue. I failed Vivienne in every way possible. I failed to trust her. I failed to investigate thoroughly. And when she needed me most, I became her greatest enemy. He could see his lawyers in the back row looking ill. This confession opened Ashford Industries up to lawsuits, potential shareholder revolts, massive liability. Marcus didn't care. I'm offering Vivienne her full position back as VP of Strategic Development, with immediate promotion to COO and a seat on the board. I am also offering financial compensation for the damages caused by my actions and the actions of Celeste Montgomery. He looked directly into the cameras. But I know that money can't repair the harm I've caused. Nothing can. Vivienne, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry. The press conference erupted into chaos. Questions flew like projectiles. Marcus answered them mechanically. Each admission of fault another layer of penance. By the time he finished, his career was in tatters, his reputation decimated. The man who'd built a billion-dollar empire on shrewd decisions and calculated risks had just confessed to destroying an innocent woman's life. The stock price plummeted 16% before trading was halted. Marcus went directly to Southampton Hospital afterward, ignoring his phone's incessant buzzing. He found Vivienne's room empty, the bed neatly made. Panic seized him. She checked out this morning, a nurse informed him, against medical advice. But she was stable enough. Where did she go? The nurse gave him a pitying look. She didn't say, Mr. Ashford. Marcus spent the next week trying to find her. Vivienne's studio apartment in Queens was abandoned, the lease terminated. Her phone went straight to voicemail. None of her friends, the few who'd stood by her, would tell him anything beyond variations of, leave her alone. She'd vanished. Ashford Industries hemorrhaged value daily. 3 board members resigned. 2 major clients pulled their contracts. Marcus's mother called from Monaco, her voice dripping with disappointment and rage. The company he'd built was collapsing, and he couldn't bring himself to care. All he cared about was finding Vivienne. On New Year's Eve, he was in his penthouse office when his assistant buzzed through. Mr. Ashford, there's someone here to see you, no appointment. Hope flared. Send them in. Wasn't Vivienne who entered. It was a woman in her 60s, elegant and composed, with Vivienne's cheekbones and eyes. Diana Laurent, she introduced herself. Vivienne's mother. Marcus had met her exactly 3 times during his marriage. Vivienne's relationship with her parents was complicated. They'd disapproved of the marriage, thought Marcus was too old for her, too driven, too cold. They'd been right. Is she okay? Marcus asked immediately. Where is she? She's alive, if that's what you're asking. Diana's voice was frost. No thanks to you. Mrs. Laurent. I'm here to deliver a message. She pulled an envelope from her purse, placed it on his desk. From my daughter. Marcus stared at it like it might explode. She could have called. She doesn't want to speak to you. She doesn't want to see you. She wants you to read this and respect her wishes. What wishes? Diana's smile was sharp as a blade. Open it and find out, Mr. Ashford. She left him alone in his office, the envelope sitting between them like a grenade. Marcus's hands shook as he opened it. Marcus, I'm writing this because you deserve closure, even if I don't feel I owe you anything. I'm not coming back to Ashford Industries. I'm not taking your money. I'm not accepting your apology, your press conference, or your guilty conscience. What you did to me, what you put me through, that's something I have to learn to live with. But I don't have to live with you. That night, before you asked for the divorce, I was going to tell you I was pregnant. Marcus stopped breathing. I found out that morning. I'd taken 3 tests, all positive. I was terrified and ecstatic, and so ready to see your face when I told you. Instead, you served me divorce papers and accused me of destroying your company. I miscarried 2 weeks later. The stress, the grief, the sheer devastation of losing you and being accused of crimes I didn't commit. My body couldn't handle it. I was 12 weeks along when I lost our baby in a hospital bathroom at 3 a.m., completely alone because I had no one left to call. Tears blurred the words. Marcus forced himself to keep reading. You didn't just destroy my career and my reputation, Marcus. You destroyed our family. You destroyed the future we could have had. And now you want forgiveness because the truth came out? Because you finally decided to believe me? It's too late. I'm leaving New York. I'm starting over somewhere you can't find me. Somewhere your money and your guilt can't reach. I need to heal, and I can't do that with you anywhere in my life. Don't look for me. Don't send lawyers or investigators or your mother with more guilt trips. Just let me go. The woman you married doesn't exist anymore. You killed her that night at the gala, maybe even before. What's left is someone you don't know, and someone who never wants to know you again. Vivienne. P.S. I lied when I said it doesn't matter what I was going to tell you. It matters. I wanted you to know what you destroyed. I wanted you to live with it, the way I have to. Marcus read the letter 3 times before his vision cleared enough to see anything else. A baby. They'd created a life together, and he'd killed it with his cruelty and blindness. He'd thought he'd hit bottom. He'd been wrong. The letter sat on his desk for days. Marcus read it obsessively, each word a fresh wound. He hired investigators despite her explicit wishes, only to find that Vivienne had been thorough. Her paper trail ended in New York. She'd either left the country or buried her tracks so deep that even his resources couldn't find her. January became February. Ashford Industries stabilized, but never recovered its former glory. Marcus promoted his VP of Technology to CEO and stepped back from daily operations. The penthouse felt like a mausoleum. The Hamptons house sat empty, haunted by memories of Vivienne's unconscious body on the bedroom floor. He visited her grave, metaphorically, the hospital where she'd miscarried, the courthouse where their divorce had been finalized, the ballroom at the Grandmont Hotel, now closed for renovations. Each location was a station of the cross in his personal purgatory. On Valentine's Day, Marcus received a package with no return address. Inside was a single item, the platinum cufflinks Vivienne had given him for their 3rd anniversary. The ones he'd been wearing the night he destroyed her. No note, no explanation, just the cufflinks, returned like a final judgment. He held them in his palm, these symbols of a love he'd taken for granted and then obliterated, and finally let himself break. 18 months later, the cafe in Portland, Maine was nothing special. Weathered wood tables, local art on the walls, the smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. Marcus had chosen it specifically because it was unremarkable. the kind of place where a former billionaire CEO could sit unnoticed. He'd been coming here every Wednesday for 2 months, ever since his investigator, the one he'd hired despite Vivienne's wishes, despite his promises to himself, had finally found her. She was teaching now. Art history at a small liberal arts college. She'd cut her hair short, dyed it darker. She wore vintage dresses and glasses she didn't need. She'd rebuilt herself into someone new, someone he didn't recognize. Marcus had been content to simply see her, to verify she was alive and apparently okay. He'd promised himself he wouldn't approach, wouldn't disrupt her new life. He'd broken enough promises to her. But today, Vivienne walked into the cafe. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Marcus watched her freeze. A dozen emotions flashed across her face. Shock, anger, fear, something that might have been pain. Then her expression smoothed into careful neutrality. She could have left, should have. Instead, she walked to his table and sat down. "How long have you been following me?" Her voice was different, quieter, but somehow stronger. "I'm not following you. I live here now." Vivienne's eyes widened. "You live in Portland?" "For 2 months. I bought a house on the coast. I consult remotely for Ashford, but mostly he trailed off. "Mostly I try to figure out how to be a better person than the one who destroyed you." She studied him silently. He looked different too. Grayer, thinner, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He looked like a man who'd been through hell and barely survived. "You shouldn't be here," she finally said. "I know. I meant what I said in my letter." "I know that too." "Then why?" "Because I'm selfish. Because even knowing I have no right to you, no right to your forgiveness or your presence, or even your hatred, I can't seem to make myself stop loving you." Vivienne's breath hitched. "Don't. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking you to forgive me or take me back or even speak to me again after today. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. That I'll spend the rest of my life being sorry. That losing you, losing what we could have had," his voice broke. "It broke something in me that can't be fixed." "Good." The word was fierce. "You should be broken. You should feel every bit of what you did to me." "I do, every day." They sat in silence, the cafe noise washing around them. Outside, snow began to fall. The first of the season, soft and pristine. "I read about Celeste's sentencing," Vivienne said finally. 8 years. Should have been longer. The accountant got 12. Also not enough. Marcus traced patterns on the table. "Nothing's enough. There's no punishment that equals what she did, what I did." "You didn't poison me." "No, I just made you wish you were dead. So much better." Vivienne's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but something adjacent. "Are you looking for absolution?" "No, I'm looking at you, alive and apparently thriving, and feeling grateful that despite my best efforts to destroy you, you survived." "I'm not thriving." She looked out the window. "I'm existing. Some days that's enough." Vivienne asked, "You're here. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters." Marcus leaned back. "I'm not stalking you. I'm not trying to insert myself into your life. I needed to be somewhere I might see you occasionally. Even if you never spoke to me again. Even if you hated me forever." He paused. "I'm pathetic." "Yes." But her voice was softer. "You are." They sat for another moment, the weight of 18 months pressing down on them. So much had changed. So much was permanently broken. "I think about the baby." Vivienne said suddenly. All the time. What they would have looked like. If it was a boy or a girl. What kind of person they would have become. Marcus's chest constricted. Viv. I named them, in my head, Noel, because I found out right before Christmas. Her eyes were wet now. Our daughter Noel, who never got to exist because you couldn't trust me. The words were a knife to the heart, precise and deserved. I would give anything to go back, to believe you, to save her. But you can't. Vivienne wiped her eyes angrily. That's the thing about destruction, Marcus. It's permanent. You don't get to rebuild what you burned down. I know. Do you? Because you're sitting here in my city, in my cafe, telling me you still love me like that means something. Like love is enough. It's not enough. Marcus's voice was raw. It's not even close to enough. But it's all I have left to offer you. Vivienne stood abruptly. I have to go. Okay. I don't want to see you here again. Okay. I don't want... She stopped, swallowing hard. I don't know what I want. Marcus stood too, careful to keep the table between them. You want peace. You want to heal. You want me to disappear and stop complicating your new life. I understand. Do you? Yes. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a card. This is my address. If you ever need anything, money, legal help, just someone to yell at, I'll be there. No strings, no expectations, just, I'll be there. Vivienne took the card like it might burn her. Why are you doing this? Because you're the best person I've ever known, and I'm the worst thing that ever happened to you. And maybe, if I spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you, I'll become someone who deserves to exist in the same world you inhabit. He left before she could respond, walking out into the snow. He didn't look back. He'd done enough damage by looking at her with blind eyes. Now, he'd give her the space she needed, even if it killed him. Marcus made it halfway to his car before he heard her voice. Marcus. He turned. Vivienne stood on the cafe steps, snow catching in her dark hair, looking achingly beautiful and infinitely distant. I don't forgive you, she said clearly. I might never forgive you. I know. But... She hesitated, and in that hesitation, something changed. Marcus saw a crack in her armor. Small, barely visible, but there. But maybe someday I'll be ready to try. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't even a promise. But it was possibility, fragile as new snow. And Marcus held it like the precious thing it was. I'll wait, he said, however long it takes. Vivienne nodded once, then turned and walked away. Marcus watched her disappear into the falling snow, knowing she might never look back, knowing he'd destroyed any chance of easy love, simple happiness, uncomplicated futures. But she'd said maybe. And maybe was more than he deserved, more than he'd dared hope for. So he'd wait. In Portland, in this small coastal town where Vivienne had rebuilt her life from the ashes he'd created. He'd wait and work and become someone worthy of that small, fragile maybe. Even if it took forever, even if she never came back. Some loves, Marcus was learning, weren't about possession or redemption or happy endings. Some loves were about bearing witness to the damage you'd caused and spending the rest of your life trying to be less destructive. Some loves were about learning to live with the consequences of your cruelty and hoping, desperately, pathetically, that somewhere in the ruins of what you'd destroyed, a single seed of forgiveness might eventually take root. The snow fell heavier now, covering Portland in white. Marcus stood in the cold, watching the cafe door where Vivienne had vanished, and let himself hope.